Welcome to Southern Sense Talk on Rumble. You are going to love Annie the Radio Chickadee Ubelis and her co-host, C.S. Bennett. You'll find them live here on Fridays from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Date Time. Check out their website at Southern Sense, as in commonsense.net. It's that easy, southernsense.net. So sit back and relax. They're informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey.
I'm batting 1,000 today. Welcome to another adventure with us here on Southern Sense. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie the Chickadee, along with my co-host Curtis C.S. Bennett going, if this girl has anything else go wrong on her today, I think she'll shoot herself.
Oh, no.
I know. You're watching us live up on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, YouTube, up on Getter, Rumble, Substack. Wait a minute, we're seeing there's a problem with one of them, and we're having a problem on Rumble. Well, it's not on Rumble today. Whatever it is, it's not going through. But we're working on it. Right now, I got my second computer down, which is driving me crazy. It's not letting me boot it up. Anyway, we got ourselves some great guests today. Mark Tapscott is joining us back from the Epoch Times. And there's a lot to talk about because we had the joint sessions of Congress that went on this week. We have the House hearing on sanctuary cities that went on this week. Representative Turner, who passed away hours after the Trump's address to the joint sessions. A lot going on. And as of today, it looks like there may be a forthcoming peace agreement or nuclear agreement between Iran and the United States. We also had Zelensky. We talked about storming out. There's been updates on that. So much has been going on that we have a lot to cover. We have also on the show, and a lot of you that are listening know this individual, not personally, but you know of him, Dr. Robert Malone. And he's got a brand new book out titled PsyWar, Enforcing the New World Order. He's also got his page up on Substack, and as well as the book. And we're going to be talking to him about a lot of stuff. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya is now undergoing questioning for nomination to the NIH, the National Institute of Health, that excoriated Dr. Malone and Dr. Jay over their disagreement on how COVID was handled and how the vaccinations were handled. So there's a lot to talk about. Also, the RFK recent approval being sworn in as the director of Health and Human Services. There's a lot going on, and it's at a fast-paced world.
Yeah, you hear a lot about, of course, the Democrats and those with Elon Musk. You hear a lot about Zelensky and what he's been up to, and Putin. But there's one person I haven't heard from in quite a while, and it's just so eerie. And I'm talking about Rocket Man. Whatever happened to him? North Korea.
Oh, North Korea.
He's been quiet as a mouse.
That he has been. So, yeah, there's also talks that have been going on. Zelensky, I believe, is traveling on Monday to Saudi Arabia to start sitting down with talks between Russia, United States, and Ukraine. So things are starting to move forward. Matter of fact, Zelensky apologized in a lengthy apology up on X for his behavior. It turns out that two members of the Democratic Party in the Senate had given him advice prior for him walking into the Oval Office.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess they didn't quite give them good advice. They didn't give good advice at all. So I'm seeing some people showing up in the chat room and everything else. And again, I do apologize. I don't have access to the social networks to respond because my other backup computer that I normally have everything running on is decided to misbehave today. So hopefully we can get that up and running when we do the dedication. I can get all that going. There is also a lot of other stuff we have to talk about, but let's get the dedication out of the way to begin with. And it's not a lengthy one on the video because I didn't see a lot of stuff put up in video format on the internet for this individual, and I don't understand why. And as I read this from the Officer Down Memorial page, you'll understand why I don't understand. More people have not heard about or recognized this gentleman. So today's dedication is going out to Senior Officer Specialist Luis Pepe. I apologize. From the United States Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Prisons of the U.S. government. His end of watch was Sunday, November 4th of 2022. And they write, Senior Officer Specialist Luis Pepe succumbed to injuries he received when he was attacked by an inmate at the Metropolitan Correctional Center at 150 Park Row in Lower Manhattan in New York City, New York, on November 1st of 2020. This was just less than a year before 9/11. The inmate was awaiting trial for 2 terrorist bombings in the United States embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998. After the inmate met with his lawyer, Officer Pepe escorted the inmate back to his cell. The inmate's cellmate threw hot sauce in his eyes, trying to blind him. Then the inmate used a comb and brush, which were converted and shaved into shivs, to stab Officer Pepe in the left eye. Both inmates proceeded to beat and pummel him for over an hour in their cell, attempting to steal his keys and escape. Despite being brutally attacked, Officer Pepe refused to give up his keys. The inmate, who was Osama bin Laden's aide, had intended to use the keys to free himself and his cellmate. He had written a hostage demand note planning to take additional hostages in his effort to escape, release additional prisoners, and attack his assigned attorney so he could be appointed a new attorney. He was initially sentenced to only 32 years in prison, but in 2010, the inmate was sentenced to life in prison for his brutal attack on Officer Pepe. Officer Pepe was rehabilitated in the hospital for over 2.5 years. He lost his left eye, experienced partial blindness in his right eye, and suffered brain damage and partial paralysis, which confined him to a wheelchair and required constant health assistance. Officer Pepe served with the United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons for 15 years when he was attacked. He was formally retired in 2014, and his whole family preceded him in death. And this is the dedication to Officer Pepe that we offer.
I should have been dead. I was dead, and I came back.
20 years ago this week, 2 Al-Qaeda prisoners jumped Correction Officer Luis Pepe at MCC, the downtown federal prison.
Right over here, Mary. 10 South, where they got me.
One inmate sprayed Pepe with hot sauce, while the other, a top aide to Osama bin Laden, stabbed him in the left eye with a comb. The 2 had been awaiting trial for the 1998 African embassy bombings.
That one day, 1 hour, they hit me 100 times.
Luis Pepe spent nearly 2.5 years in the hospital. He was there during the 9/11 terror attacks, when all of us learned the name Osama bin Laden.
He's done the impossible. He survived.
And 20 years later, an ambulette brought Pepe, now 63, back to MCC, his devoted aide Leslie wheeling him to the site for a special ceremony.
Mary, look what they gave me.
The plaque reads, "Your brothers and sisters at MCC New York continue to recognize and support you." But Pepe, who is partially paralyzed, gets his biggest support from Leslie A. Cha, who spends 12 hours a day at his side. In recent years, they started volunteering at a veterans nursing home.
Every Thursday, we wake up. When I come in, he said, have to go and volunteer. He talks to the veterans, he makes friends. It does help him mentally.
What has Leslie meant to you as a friend?
I could marry her. Leslie, real friend. She can do anything.
He's a good person. I can't say enough about Mr. Louis.
He's really inspired you.
So many ways.
Over the years, Louis Pepe's story has brought a U.S. senator to his house and electric wheelchair donations from former cops moved by his courage.
Louis, how you doing, buddy?
But it's the love of his sister and his compassionate aid that gets him through the most challenging days, along with his fierce will.
It took him a long time to accept who he is, but they get to the point that he accepted. With somebody with just one eye, with one hand, he does everything.
I'm Mary Murphy, Pix 11 News.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, our time has come. We gave them hope. We made them strong. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah. We led with grace. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For the next generation. Let it be said. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother. Oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation. For the next generation.
All right, and we are back. I finally got the other computer up and running during the
Running.
dedication.
Good.
Holy moly, what a nightmare. But we are live, Southern Census Live now on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Getter. Rumble is not going up. It's on our homepage, southernsense.net, as well as now up live on Substack also. And what's great is Dr. Robert Malone, who will be our guest along with Mark Tapscott, are also on Substack. So it gives them, all of us, a little extra exposure here, which is great for all of us. But we'll have Mark calling in about 10 minutes. And a couple of things I pulled out. I have a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, lives right across the street, retired Marine, who went back to become a civilian in the Marine Corps, and he runs a whole large department on the base here. Basically, he's responsible for everything financial. And when Doge hit, for some reason, they decided to do the same thing that all the other departments are doing and let a lot of people go. And a lot of people that go back to work on the military bases and in VA hospitals are veterans themselves. And a lot of these veterans are now finding themselves without a job. And as he was saying, he said an order came down and just said to cut all these people without looking to see who was important in the job slot they are, who was imperative to be there, who was showing up to work and not working remotely from home. So I think that maybe instead of taking the chainsaw, they should do a little bit more surgically. There was an article up on Newsmax, and Newsmax is a highly conservative, establishment, and they cite a disabled Air Force veteran who voted for Donald Trump, and then 3 months later finds himself unemployed. He worked at a Virginia medical facility for veterans. And it turns out 30% of the nation's federal workforce are veterans. And we're dealing with a major number of homeless veterans on the street. So I'm thinking that maybe we should take another look at Doge and maybe not do it as drastically as they have. Stop and look at the departments and say to the department heads, who is vital? Who is it that you need? And give a preference maybe to veterans.
Well, Trump, he's put that word out. In the beginning, as we all know, he didn't have all his cabinet people in place. It took some time for them to get confirmed and whatnot. And those was, off and running from day one. But now that he has everyone in place, he has issued a directive for them to make the cuts and find out who's important, who's needed, and whatnot. And that's how they're going to approach this from this point on. Because some people were let go. I think there was 50 in one area that got let go, and they had to rehire them, bring them back. But and I can't help but think that some of these people that were leftovers, carryovers from Biden, did some things to embarrass Trump in this area. But he has put the word out that it will be the cabinet members who should have the final, say on who comes in, who goes,
Yeah, I mean,
and more surgically, not
let's let
with a
them look at
bulldozer.
it and say, hey, listen, all these people were let go in your department. Take a look at it and see who you can bring back on that will work effectively, help save the department money, work efficiently. And again, look to see if they're a veteran, give them an extra check. These men and women gave everything to join the service. And I don't think they should be thrown aside so willy-nilly. Yeah, sure, you're going to find a couple of them that, are just lazy. I mean, in any service, in any job, you're going to find that. But look at the record, look at the work they've actually done, and then consider, are they essential? And can you find a place for them?
And that's going to happen. I believe that when there's change, you're going to have, some rough edges throughout the process in the beginning, but it'll all smooth out. And I think it will work the way he wants it to work. There were a lot of people complaining about people being fired or let go, but it happens all the time in the civilian world too. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a job where there was a department, not my department, but they came into work and they were told they didn't have a job anymore. So it's
Oh,
not really anything new, but it's always sad and tragic when those things happen in the private sector, rarely in government.
well, this is the whole thing. We have so many departments in government that are unnecessary, that are redundant. And unfortunately, that is a result of a runaway bureaucracy.
There you
And
go.
we do need to come back down to the ideals that our founding fathers laid down for us. Limited government. Can a lot of these departments and agencies be moved to the state level? Can those jobs be transferred to state levels? And that way, by dispersing it through the 50 states and the territories, reassign these people. I mean, there's a lot of questions here. How could it be handled? And if the department is completely unnecessary, can these people be put in a different place? I
And they
understand probationary. Yeah. I understand that. I've got family members that both have lost jobs. They're young. I mean, in this case, they're young. They do have family to lean back on. I've been laid off, not once, but twice. I know how hard it feels, but I was young. I had family to lean back on, a place to live, and I was able to recoup and come back. We can do that, but when you're talking about someone that's been older, disabled, a veteran that has served, I think we should just take a second look in that avenue.
I I will say that I think Trump realized that that was not a good approach in the beginning. But when you come across some programs, and I'm not talking about the VA, but there were some programs no one could explain what what the purpose of that program was, but there were millions, sometimes billions of dollars going into that program. He put a pause on it, the money going to it, so he can look into it further Um, and then you have some agencies where they're not going to get a lot of sympathy, like the IRS. I remember a time, I think it was Biden, maybe under Obama, where they told you that they were going to increase the number of agents, IRS agents, to come and collect, your taxes. But a lot of them are now going to be let go, So I don't think they're going to get a lot of sympathy. But nevertheless, they will be government workers who will be without a job in the near future. But I'm pretty sure they will be able to get jobs in the private sector, if not in other areas of government.
Yeah, well, again, like I said, I'm glad he put out the order saying the department heads make the final decision. Elon Musk does not have the authority to fire people. He can only make recommendations. He can uncover the waste, fraud, and theft. He can uncover that, but it is up to the departments then to act on that, which may result in people and I'm seeing in certain areas people are being brought back, which is a good thing.
And like I said, like you said, he has no authority or power to fire people. And that's why I think some of these holdovers that were still in charge said, okay, he wants to let people go. I'll fire a whole lot of them and embarrass his butt. Get the sympathy of the public. But now that he has basically, I think about 95% of his cabinet in place, they have a new mandate to go about how to go about doing this.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is that he's been able to do so much in such a small time. It's not even 2 months. Not even. We're at what? What are we at? 49 days? Oh no, it has been 2 months.
About 6.
No, not quite.
6 weeks.
Yeah, about 6 weeks. Not even 2 months yet.
And
he has accomplished a lot.
He's still fighting for the American people. I don't know what the Democrats are fighting for. I saw that video with all the females. Fight videos.
I meant to download that. I meant to download that, and I didn't. And that's a shame because just bear with me. Let me see.
They can't dance for one thing.
I'm putting in here bad dancing, seeing if I can find that video.
Who you want to fight for you? Something like that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see.
Yeah,
I do have it. I do have it here. Oh, wait. Let me see if I can
play it.
No, hang it. Just bear with me and just see if I can get this up there. I present, share screen. Okay, here we go.
They come on like a bunch of loonies.
Oh, geez. You just can't make that up. You really can't make that up.
They do a lot of childish things. Like they did at the
I want to know whose idea that was. Whose idea was that?
Probably AOC. She's the leader of the gang.
Well, that's the beauty of this new format that we have. We can pull something up really quick like that and then present it. So, thank you to StreamYard that has been giving us all these beautiful features that allow us to do this type of a broadcast. And if you can, check out our Substack page too. So let's bring in our victim of the day. And here we go. Mark Tapscott from the Epoch Time and the founder of Hill Faith. Good afternoon, Mark. How are you today?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing today?
And how are you feeling? Because a lot of prayers have gone out for you.
Actually, much, much better because we got a negative biopsy.
Good.
Oh.
Praise
I
the
didn't
Lord.
I didn't tell anything to any of the listeners because it's your privacy. So
HIPAA.
I didn't ask you, but
Now,
hip,
if it was COVID,
hooray.
we would have told everybody everything.
Yeah.
COVID, HIPAA meant nothing under COVID.
Yeah. No, we're good.
Oh man. Also through your Hill Faith, you've got the Hill Faith News. You put out a blog or whatever you want to call it, the Hill staff views of what's going on, and you had here the mixed reviews on Trump's joint session.
Yeah, very.
And I found that interesting.
Mixed reviews.
45% overall of the respondents, said that it was good overall.
Yeah.
But then that included 86% of the junior JOP policy aides. Now, I found this interesting. The younger kids had a more favorable view of Trump than the senior policy aides.
Yes. And not on the top one, but on the next one, if I recall correctly,
for women,
the women out were more the women than the men.
Much more favorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we're talking about congressional aides, people that work for senators and congressmen, congressional committees. The average age is about 27. So this is a predominantly younger crowd.
I like that CBS poll.
How about that?
76? Wow.
Yeah.
CBS. You're also seeing some of the liberal news media are starting to put in there some conservatives every now and then. And it's like, well, maybe we might up our ratings if we have a debate between a Democrat and a Republican or a conservative and a liberal.
What a concept.
Geez. And there's some turnover and turnaround over as MSNBC. Mm-hmm. You're seeing a lot of things. Even The View is getting a lot of huge criticism.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how long is that going to last, The View? I mean, I thought it was on his last death throes last year.
Well,
but still.
The really sad thing about The View is, the way it is now and has been for some time. I suspect if Barbara Walters could come back and address the panelists, she would say, guys, you're really blowing what was a very good thing. And they are.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I'm watching more and more people just turning around and saying, well, maybe, just maybe. The only backstep, and Curtis and I were talking about that, is the large number of veterans that have been cut from the federal workforce.
Yeah.
And I'm finding a large, from the reports, Newsmax was reporting on this of all places, that the majority of them worked in VA facilities or associated with VA facilities. And I don't understand why you would do that. I mean, we've got so many homeless VA on the street. We're trying to help the veterans.
Yeah.
And I think it's not a great move.
I'm puzzled by that too, and mainly because, as it happens in my investigative journalism years, we've done a lot of reporting on how totally messed up the Veterans Administration has been. It really is one of the least efficient, most costly departments in the federal government. Is it overstaffed? Probably. Most government agencies are. But if ever you were going to have the least disruption, the Veterans Services for Veterans would be the place that I would say, these guys, take care of them now and we'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, my neighbor across the street, he's a sweetheart friend. He's retired Marine, but he went back to work on the Marine base. in a senior position. And he was over here the last 2 days just ranting about how he was being forced to cut people.
Yeah.
He said, there are staff that I've asked them to help me get rid of because they're just a waste. And yet his most valuable people were the ones that were being cut.
Yeah.
And he had to fight to bring them back on. The only thing that buoys me, and Curtis pointed this out correctly, is that Trump issued that order saying that Elon Musk does not have the ability to fire people, only the department heads, only the cabinet heads.
Right. And the Secretary of the Veterans Administration now, of course, is the former very conservative Republican congressman from Georgia, Doug Collins. And I have a suspicion that, there may be, because they knew, I'm sure the Trump people knew going in that there would be an absolute explosion of litigation against everything that they're doing.
Backlash.
Yeah, backlash that has anything to do even remotely with Doge. And therefore, there was probably, I would think, an attitude of let's get as much done as we can, as quickly as we can, and then see how much of it survives. Because they're going to lose in court some number of times, and you can.
Yeah.
It takes time to get to the Supreme Court. So
well,
maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know.
You might remember, but when Trump, his first term, when people were asking why he's so verbose and why he's so as he is, and I said, well, think of it as if you're cooking spaghetti and you throw it against the wall and you wait to see what sticks.
Yeah.
And I think he still uses that technology.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not how you test pasta.
Well, I had a theory that I expressed to Annie before we went on the air, and it's this: Trump did not have all his cabinet members in place on day one or day two, or even after the second week.
That's true.
But they went about, cutting with Elon Musk as the figurehead.
Right.
And I think some of these holdovers from the Biden administration were the mindset, well, if he wants to cut, we'll cut really deep and embarrass this guy.
Embarrass him. Yeah, that's another possibility that we'll.
But now that he has all his cabinet members in place, he's saying, okay, let's do this surgically.
Yeah.
But we're also seeing in certain agencies are calling people back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably because Trump now has his person in charge. So it could be exactly what Curtis was saying.
Yeah.
These are the Biden leftovers. Let's cause as much pain as possible and make it reflect on Trump.
Yeah.
But now we can turn around and start calling people back because now you got the right person in charge.
Now that you mention that, Curtis, that's actually very perceptive. And I suspect that because there were a tremendous number of Obama administration political appointees that converted in to the federal workforce as career employees. And I'm sure that the same thing happened with the Biden people. Plus, I mean, you don't have to be a former political appointee. I've had a great deal of experience dealing with senior career executives in the federal workforce who, they are, I think we've talked here a couple of weeks ago about a survey of thousands of top level senior executives in the career service here in the Washington, D.C. region. And more than half of them say they were going to be actively opposing Trump. So, Curtis, I'm sure you're on to it there.
Well, you got a great article you put up just yesterday about the sanctuary cities.
Oh yeah, what? that was a real circus.
And the four mayors. Well, just before you came on, Curtis reminded me of the clip of those Democratic women dancing, and we played it.
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't even dance.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt sorry for a couple of them.
Some white girls can't dance.
No, some of the black girls can't dance either.
Well, you had the five mayors of the four mayors of the four major large sanctuary cities: New York, Denver, Chicago, and Boston.
Right.
And of course, it was Eric Adams for New York, Mike Johnson for Denver, Chicago, Brandon Johnson, and our favorite Michelle Wu in Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some really curious takeaways on how they seem to view things. And it was Jim Jordan that brought up the Denver mayor and Abraham Gonzalez.
Yeah.
And that was a perfect example of how these sanctuary cities are not and doing everything to subvert the federal government in performing their duties.
Well, I'll tell you, and not only that aspect of it, but also it was, at least in my view, it was a perfect illustration of how an official in government who is determined to frustrate action, there are countless ways that you can delay, you can frustrate, you can confuse, you can obfuscate. The ICE officials had asked the Denver officials for at least 48 hours of notice before they let this guy go, and they gave him 1 hour. So that pretty clearly was an attempt to evade, if you will, without actually openly resisting. They were trying to make it possible for this guy to evade the ICE people, and they almost succeeded, not quite, but they frequently do, I'm sure, succeed.
It's amazing because I know I've said this many times before, but as a New York City cop, we were not able to advise or tell ICE that we had arrested in our possession, actually arrested this individual who is an illegal alien.
Yeah.
And
you know what? I thought the most important exchange of that whole hearing, Andy Biggs from Arizona brought in some big placards and put it up so everybody could see the direct quotes from 3 different federal laws that said you will and you will not do such and such, and telling state and local officials that they have to cooperate with the federal authorities. And as clear as anybody that could read could see that's what the law says. Not one of those mayors, not one of them said, you're right. We got to straighten up and fly right. They all evaded. They all got, they just would not confront the obvious fact that what they're doing is violating federal law.
Well, the New York City mayor, just to show that he was trying to walk both sides, at one point admitted that it was illegal to enter the country illegally.
Yeah.
And he was the only
there
one.
is that fact.
Well, so we give that to him. So he's trying to give like a handshake to Trump, but I'm sorry, you're still a sanctuary city. You're still committing felonies by interfering with the federal agents in performing their duties.
Yep.
And allowing these criminals to remain and to harbor them to remain still remains a felony. So in this case, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and the whole crowd can start their investigations and charge these mayors and put these mayors behind bars.
Yeah, they can. And that's one of the issues that I think that hearing successfully raised. Think about this. If the situation was reversed and we were talking about local schools, parents resisting Department of Education bureaucrats coming in and instructing local public schools to teach X, and the parents didn't like that, and they said no, and the teachers didn't like it, and they said we're not going to do that. Where would these people that are so so insistently defending the sanctuary cities, where would they be then? I guarantee you they wouldn't be defending the parents and the teachers. They would be defending the federal bureaucrats.
Oh, but weren't some of these parents physically escorted by law enforcement out of these school board meetings? Weren't several of them arrested
Yes.
because they raised it? And aren't these parents still facing the same persecution by not having control over what their child does or does not learn?
Same thing.
Or what that child does or not do to their body?
Yep. Hypocrisy, thy name is
Democrats.
You said it, not me.
Hey, Mark,
Yes.
what's going on with the release of all information on the assassinations?
Great
JFK.
question. Listen,
It's
man,
been
I'm
quiet.
very interested in that, especially the Kennedy.
It's been
the
quiet on
JFK.
the front.
Yeah. I we'll see, you know.
And what about this guy that they caught the night of the speech? This terrorist that was on his way to the country. Haven't heard much of him either. That planned some of the attacks on the Americans when we
Oh
pulled
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Who is this guy? I don't
That
hear a
was the
thing.
first I'd heard of him, and the fact that they were able to get him, that should be a warning to some folks with ISIS and some of the other Al Qaeda, the other groups that we know where you're at. You know?
And the narco terrorists
And the terrorists, yes, yeah, absolutely.
narco terrorists in Mexico.
Yeah, you're having Dr. Malone on next.
Yes.
He's a great man.
Yeah, I've been reading his book, The PsyWar, and we're going to be talking to him. And I've been following him ever since he first came out publicly and saying, hey, listen, I created the mRNA and I know what it can and cannot do. And you're not telling the public the truth.
Yeah.
And he has been excoriated publicly for it. He has been harassed. He's been threatened.
Yep.
And he still goes forward. And he wrote in his book that the new platform for truth is, guess what? What we are doing now.
Transparency. Transparency in government is the biggest defender of freedom and individual liberty.
Well, let me say this much. Trump is going to be a hard act to follow. Whoever becomes president next.
Yeah, well, that's an understatement.
Matter of fact, he was due to stop in, so I know you got to bug out.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I've got somebody waiting for me.
But it's been happy news to know that everything's A-OK, and you will still continue to remain in our prayers.
Well, thank you. You too, both of you.
All right, take care.
Right.
See you later.
Mark Tapscott for the Epoch Times, and also check out hillfaith.org. I'm going to try to find out where our next guest is because he's not signing in just yet. And I'm trying to see where he's at.
What time was he supposed to come on? Like a couple of minutes?
3:15.
Oh, man.
Oh, come on. Fingers. I'm trying to type onto my phone. So folks, bear with me. This is really live. To sign on. Ah, come on. Don't do that to me. When you try to do something fast, that's not the time. You slow down. If you want it done correctly, just slow down a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So the hurrier you go, behinder you get. There we go. All right, so I just sent it to him. So hopefully he'll sign in real soon. Oh, no. Did I say? Oh, yeah, I sent it to Drew. Okay. All right.
I'm still wondering how we sent people to the space station for an 8-day mission, and it turned into like 9 or 10 months. And we don't seem to have the ability to bring them home. We're going to have to turn to people like Elon Musk and his company. And I know one of his booster rockets exploded recently, like yesterday.
I'm going to be right back. Okay, Curtis. So keep.
Yeah, but I believe that he'll get that problem fixed and get these astronauts home. Probably, I would say April at the latest, maybe before. But it's just so sad to me that NASA, that once had a great stellar, record. I mean, we've had some, incidents and stuff, but we were able to overcome them. Like Apollo 13 and the 3 astronauts that got killed on the launch pad, and maybe a few other, things like the Columbia and the Challenger. But we forged on. But to leave somebody up in space for 10 months, it's just, I mean, it was sad to me when we used to have to hitch a ride into space with the Russians. But I think and believe that all of that is about to change with the Trump administration, and especially with going with private companies with very intelligent people. And yes, some of them young people, but they have brilliant minds. And I think we'll get our glory back as far as space exploration. I believe we will go to Mars within the next few years and beyond, maybe. And of course, we will return to the moon. There's a lot that we can accomplish when we put our mind to it as a nation. And, I haven't seen a lot of that the last, 4 years, if at all. But as we can see now, there's a new air about us. We all seem, 80% of us seem to be, hopeful and positive about moving forward as a country with Trump in office. Of course, you got that 20% that diehard left, and maybe some rhinos that no matter what Trump does or say, as he pointed out during the speech, there's nothing he's going to do to persuade them to get on board with some of the things that they can get on board with. And for them to behave like a bunch of spoiled brats during the speech the other day just shows how much they are when it comes to being ideologues. They showed no humanity, and as a result, it reflected badly on them. And as far as I'm concerned, let them keep doing that, because the midterms come up, they're going to lose some more seats.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we saw, the behavior of a lot of the Democrats there was really just inappropriate.
Yeah.
It was inappropriate. And Representative Green was physically escorted off the floor during the speech. And Speaker Johnson, rightly so, called the Sergeant at Arms to perform his duty, which they did very efficiently and politely. And just, was it yesterday or the day before? It was yesterday that Representative Johnson was officially censured by Congress.
And 10 Democrats joined in with that.
Well, I don't recall seeing the other Democrats being censured, but the fact they escorted Representative Green off the floor.
What I meant, 10 went along with the censors, with the Republicans.
10 Democrats. Oh, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So it was.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. That is very interesting. That I did not know. That speaks a lot. So that means that maybe these same 10 Democrats will look for a bipartisan solution to a lot of things that are looking to be done. And I was catching a couple of things on the news as I was passing through my she cave. But they did have the 3 astronauts on doing interviews. Was it Fox or might have been Newsmax? Either one. They were interviewing them, and they were looking forward to coming home soon. And it looks like there are plans, and the question out there now that a lot of people are asking, did the Biden administration deliberately delay these astronauts coming home by, was it a year?
At least 10 months, at least. It's supposed to have been an 8-day mission
Mm-hmm.
that turned into 10 months.
I mean, where are they
How
getting
can
their
that
food
be?
from? Where are they getting their food from?
Well, I think they were sending up unmanned.
Unmanned?
Yeah, Elon Musk and his crew with
Mm-hmm.
supplies and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just unfathomable that they would leave those guys stranded and lost in space.
yeah. Well, I'm unable to call, so our next guest, well, I'm just letting his agent know. Okay, on air now. Just sending him. Unable to call, so he's got to call the guy and find out what's going on with Dr. Malone, find out what the problem is. But we are waiting for Dr. Robert Malone to sign in and join us here. So hopefully he will be. But again, the questions are, if the Biden administration deliberately prevented these people from coming home, preventing Elon Musk from going forward with helping, because he was ready to go. He said, within weeks, I can have a vessel up there and bring them home.
Yeah, I heard that. And he didn't want to have some. He connected Trump to this in some way, and he didn't want Trump to look good, because he knew Musk was an ally of Trump.
Well, in
That's what I heard.
effect, what is the effect on the human body for being in space for more than a year? That's going to be an interesting study to see what these people will be going through as they come back and readjust to gravity on Earth. Because you got to remember that they cannot step out of the vessel when they land. They have to be immediately. They have to be immediately placed in a special
wheelchair or something.
No,
A gurney?
decompression chamber. A decompression chamber.
Really?
Yeah. So that they can slowly be reacclimated to the effects of gravity on their body. It's going to be muscle atrophy because they're not using all the normal muscles that gravity requires them to use. And what would that mean to their bone density? There's going to be a lot of questions.
I would say the Russians have a lot of data on this because they, back in the 90s, maybe the 80s too, they would send their cosmonauts up there for extended periods, maybe a year or more. So I don't know how much of that information they're sharing with the United States, but I'm sure our scientists have some idea of the effects of that long term being a weightless environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, we're still trying to see if we can get a hold of Dr. Malone. I just sent a message over to his agent and saying, please let me know what's going on here, because it is a fantastic book, and there is a lot for us to talk about that's in there. But what I mentioned earlier in the show about Representative Sylvester Turner and his passing, there is an article in today.com by Lindsay Lowe, and she wrote, Representative Sylvester Turner, a Democrat out of Texas, died Wednesday at the age of 70 after suffering a medical emergency. The Democratic lawmaker's office confirmed his passing in a statement on X on March 5th. Congressman Turner is survived by his loving family, devoted staff, and numerous friends who cherished his wisdom, humor, and steadfast dedication to public service. The statement had read in part. She goes further on to write, Turner was elected to Congress in November after serving 2 terms as the mayor of Houston, beginning in 2015. He also previously served in the Texas House of Representatives for 27 years. Turner's office has not shared the exact cause of his death, but noted in a statement he died peacefully. The previous day, a Democratic lawmaker saw Turner near the Capitol building, and it said it appeared Turner was having a medical emergency. He was then assisted by Capitol Police, NBC News reported. Later on March 4th, Turner attended President Trump's joint address to Congress. During this event, Turner was taken to a hospital and later released, the Associated Press reported, citing a statement from Turner's family. The AP also reported that according to Turner's family, the lawmaker died at his home from enduring health complications at 5:45 a.m. on Wednesday. He was active at work until just before his passing. On the evening of March 4th, he posted a video to his official X account introducing his guest for Trump's joint address. Angela Hernandez, a constituent from his congressional district, advocating her daughter who has a rare genetic disorder. My message to the current administration for tonight's State of the Union: don't mess with Medicaid, Turner wrote on X. Turner revealed in November of 22 that he had undergone treatment for bone cancer earlier that year. He revealed his health history during a question and answer session during his annual State of the City address. He said he had been diagnosed with osteocarcinoma after a tumor was discovered in his jaw. He had the affected part of his jaw removed and replaced with bone from his right leg, according to the Texas Tribune. So Representative Turner passed away. All right.
So that means they're going to have a special election then. And there's a chance that maybe a Republican can get that seat.
Well, I don't know how Texas does that, whether or not it'll be a special election or if it will be appointed. So if anyone that's in one of the chat rooms wants to post, hopefully it'll come up on my page here, because like I said, some of the links when my computer went down were not behaving properly. But let's see if we can get an answer to that question. Will it be an appointment or a special election from Texas? Because I don't know how they would do that. But speaking of the joint session, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I think that's how Jennifer Carroll got in. She was appointed.
And she's
become
Texas.
lieutenant. Well, when she became part of the House in Florida.
But that's Florida, but each
Right,
state is
but
different.
it can happen though. Is what I'm alluding to.
Mhm.
Yeah, and she stayed in state politics until she became lieutenant governor under Rick Scott. But she was appointed. So Texas probably the same way. It would be nice because it'll be a Republican since their governor is Republican. Texas.
Well, so far we're getting no response from. I sent a direct text to Dr. Malone. Okay, he's asking now if he showed up. Nope. Not yet. So see if we can get a hold of him and see if we get him to join. I was starting to talk about, there were 12 takeaways written up in, I think this was Newsweek. Their takeaways on the Trump speech. Yeah, the joint session. And the first one they point out is the tax cuts promised for all Americans. And Trump promised an across the board tax cut to everyone. The question is on this one, is he going to be doing it the same amount, or is he going to graduate it, the least amount to the highest earner and the largest amount to the lowest earner, which would make sense in this economy to enable those on the low end to have more disposable income for necessities like household items and things like that. Be interesting how he does end up proposing that to Congress, how to redo that. He's saying that these tax cuts would total $4.5 trillion over a decade under the current House GOP plan. which would be retroactive to January of this year. He also proposed 0% interest on loans for American-made vehicles. That would really boost new car sales, if you think about that. And no tax on tips, overtime pay, and Social Security benefits.
Yeah.
And Social Security, why are they taxing it? When
It's
you earn your money, you pay
it was a
tax
tax.
on that money. And then you take a portion of that money that's been taxed
Tax it
and
again.
put it aside for Social Security in the future. Okay? That's my money. I've already paid taxes on it. Why am I paying taxes on it for a second time?
Yeah.
Now, just to let the audience know, I'm on Social Security disability because of my line of duty injuries. So my Social Security is not taxed. But if I were to go out and find I am able to work another job, those earnings would be taxed and would cause a portion of my Social Security also to be taxed.
True.
So Social Security should not be taxed, period.
I can't.
And the waste and fraud that was found in it. I mean, someone over the age of 360, you're not alive. So where is that money going? You got people that are 150, 160 years old. No one lives to that age. And yes, there are a handful of people over the age of 100. But we have to make sure that these roles of benefits, the benefit roles, are cleaned. Not just once a decade or once a Elon Musk. It has to be cleaned constantly. I mean, I know I had to notify Social Security when my husband passed away, and I did that immediately. And had he lived just a mere less than 4 hours more, I would have collected his 1 month benefit. He died on the very last day of the month at 9:40 p.m. And had the doctor postponed declaring him, but that would be fraud. And yet the very fact that it was just less than 4 hours, I did not receive that month's Social Security that he earned.
I've heard a lot of horror stories like that. A loved one passes away, and the money they got, they have to return it for that month.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's something. The system has to be reformed. It really does.
It has to have a heart.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much that we can go on and talk about, and it would probably last a couple of hours. But we were talking about illegal aliens. One of the things that they put up as number 2 is the border closing and deportations that are underway. And right now, Trump is in a border war with Trudeau. I don't know if you caught Trudeau speaking on camera. He was there, his nose all bright red because he's crying. I'm sorry, you're supposed to be a powerful world leader, not a crybaby. He says, I got the Canadians here. And crying. I'm sorry. That was pathetic looking. That's not a strong world leader. I mean, Margaret Thatcher, had she been standing in front of him, probably would have bitch slapped him.
Yeah.
There's no crying. No crying. I'm sorry.
Just be a man about it.
And suddenly now off the shelves are all these different types of liquors. I guess they're made in American liquors that the Canadians enjoy. But then there's a lot of Canadian liquors that we enjoy here. You need to secure the border. You need to stop the fentanyl and the terrorists from coming over the border. You're our ally. Do something about it. We're trying to keep our end of it, but you got to do it on your side too. But now there was a couple of articles I caught recently about how these cartels are starting to take over Canada. They're starting to feel what we have been feeling and the very things that we have been talking about. And Canadians are sooner or later They're going to start coming back and vacationing here again because it's going to be too dangerous to stay up in Canada.
Well, I was going to add, since you said that, a lot of politicians are in the pockets of these criminals, and that's why they don't want to do anything. And I mean, that happens here in America, United States, and they allow these narco terrorists to push all these drugs into their country, and knowing that, hey, we're covered. It's like the five families in the boroughs of New York. They got politicians in their pockets and stuff like that, as they say. So, and I think that's one of the reasons why they were really wanting to get rid of Trump, knock him off, because they knew once he came to power, he was going to start exposing people and their connections. And I think that is still going on.
Well, I'm trying to just bear with me because this computer is misbehaving. It's the backup computer I have I follow the social network, so I see if people are posting. So it's not exactly behaving the way it should be.
Yeah.
So I'm just.
But there's a lot of corruption in politics, and we are beginning to find that out. I mean, most of us knew it, but we just didn't know how broad it was and how deep it went. And I think that's one of the things that won the day or the night for Trump, by listing all the waste in some of these programs one by one. And he could have probably gone on for another hour, just, telling the country about these programs that we were wasting money on.
Yeah, he did 1 hour and 40 minutes. At 1 hour and 40 minutes. Do you think Joe Biden would have been able to do something like that? No, not at all. The difference you see between the two administrations is like night and day. The third thing that they list in a level of importance, Trump was touting common sense revolution, including primarily through rooting out woke ideas from the government and federally funded programs. How much money would we save if we just simply taught in our school systems traditional education, reading, writing, and arithmetic, the STEM courses, mathematics, science.
Bring back vocational courses like wood shop, electric
exactly.
shop, metal
Bring
shop.
back vocational choices so that when these students graduate high school, they are able to do mathematics, do algebra, geometry, things you need to work out in the world. Being able to read proficiently. I mean, I tell the story of the one time I was going through the grocery store. It was Food Lion, and it was a brand new cashier. And, those little dividers you put between the customer before you and the customer behind you so your items don't get mixed. She was trying to scan that and was calling for a price check on the divider. Common sense things. The kids today, I was talking to some members of my church that go out and work with youth so that when they get them prepared for job interviews. And he said interpersonal relationships with these young kids today, they don't know how to do it, to look someone straight in the eye and shake their hand, how to sit down for a job interview, how to talk to customers, how to do basic things. And you're right, vocational things like shop, like home ec, automotive.
Auto shop, yeah.
Engineering, a lot of these things. And then having programs where you can have a business, have them as, I'm trying to think of the word, not an understudy.
Like a apprenticeship.
Thank you. Apprenticeship. That was the word. Have an agreement between businesses, charities, public services. Have someone become an apprentice in a firehouse or a police station or in a hospital. We used to have candy stripers. Do we have them anymore?
I heard they exist. I haven't seen any in the hospitals I go to.
and put these apprenticeships as credits towards college or scholarships or something, if this is in a private school, well, tie it in that if you do an apprenticeship, your tuition is so much less. I mean,
And
if
they
you're
need
doing it
to,
through a homeschooling, then it's going to be, credits towards college. Or for the more you apprentice is how much lower your tuition becomes. There's so many things that can be done to
yeah.
take these kids today, and how the United States as a nation is so low on the education level. We got to rethink it. And we've got to take these woke programs out and come back to basics.
And they need to teach these kids how to cursive write.
Yeah. I mean, handwriting. Everyone is doing now their smart device, but if your device goes down, you're lost. If your smart device goes down, whatever you had, if you don't have handwritten notes somewhere, what the heck did you just put on your smart device? I print out my notes, honestly, and then I will have handwritten notes also.
Well, I had a conversation with
So-
someone in their 40s, and they were taught in the fact that I got all my taxes, all my finances, everything in digital format. Because I told them, well, I make backups. And the point that I made, well, what you going to do if the digital environment that you're using goes down? What happens if we have an attack, that takes out the internet? I still got paperwork I can refer to. I got backups. You having everything digitized. What you gonna do? And they had to think. I ain't think of that.
No, and I mean, fine, you got digital copies, and again, that's great, really nice and fine. But what happens if you're audited and you can't access your system?
That's right. Your phone company goes down or whatever, phone lines. What's gonna happen?
Just a few weeks back, we had a major internet down. Most of the major internet carriers and phone carriers went down, and people had nothing to work with and had to go online. They could not go online to get anything. Oh, well, you put it up into the cloud. Well, who's to say the cloud's not going to get hacked? And where is this cloud? Make sure you have your, it's called CYA, cover your
Have backups.
and do it in paper.
I mean, for
CYA and in
decades,
paper.
they were talking about having a paperless society. Computers were going to make that happen. Every job, every organization, and even in the military that I worked in had backups on paper. They didn't trust having everything digitized.
Yeah.
So it didn't get rid of paper. If anything, it made more.
Well, they also went over the tariffs, and
He explained it, huh?
well, when this nation was founded, there was no income tax. There was no income tax. There were sales taxes, to help for local municipalities and state municipalities. But there was no income tax. The federal government was funded by tariffs. And that kept manufacturing here in the United States. That's why we were the number one, in manufacturing. But once we initiated the income tax and people were told, oh no, it's only the top 10%, the very richest of the richest is ever going to pay an income tax. The little guy on the bottom of the totem pole, you don't have to worry about it. Well, over the years, that changed. That changed over the years. And in the 1930s was the huge explosion when everything reversed. Where most of the power laid within the states, suddenly now it was laid into the federal government. So by reducing income taxes and placing the tariffs, you're not going to pay maybe as high as an income tax, and maybe eventually those income taxes will disappear. And the government once again be funded by tariffs, bringing back manufacturing. But doing so much so fast, it's scaring people, and it's scaring the stock market. And I have money in the stock market. And I saw myself, I'm still ahead, but not as ahead as I used to be. And I have a friend of mine, he was saying he lost 40,000.
Well, when it comes to the stock market, you have to think long term.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the IRS and income tax and things like that, I wouldn't be surprised if by next year, in his second year of this presidency, Trump will say, I'm getting rid of income taxes and we'll just go back to consumption taxation. Whatever you buy,
Well,
you pay taxes on. That's
the
it.
only problem with that, he can't get rid of the IRS. You can get rid of the IRS, but you can't get rid of income taxes. Why? Because it's a constitutional amendment. We have to go back.
Did they make that a law or something?
No, it's a constitutional amendment.
Well, that
It's
makes
part of the
it a
Constitution,
law. Amendments are laws.
but it doesn't say how to administer these income taxes. And it doesn't say specifically who these income taxes are aimed at. That's what legislation and the IRS do. So in order to remove any prospect of ever being another income tax, you have to ratify the Constitution by amending that amendment.
Well, we repeal prohibition,
Yeah.
and I'm sure
We
if
would have to
he promotes
require.
this the right way and say, hey, you get to keep more of your money with a consumption tax, I think just about everybody, probably 90% of Americans, will put pressure on their leaders to, vote to go back to consumption taxes and get rid of the income.
So what
It's all
we have to
about
do is then
voting.
repeal the income tax amendment on the Constitution and institute something similar, as close as possible to the original idea of the fair tax. And it's based upon what you purchase. So if I decide I need a new TV, how much tax I pay depends upon which TV I purchase. Am I happy with a TV that's only $200? Or do I want to show off how much money I have and get this mega TV for a couple $1,000s? The amount of tax you pay is based upon what you purchase. So if I'm happy with the 200, then the government's only going to get that little bit of a tax on the 200. But they're going to get a hell of a lot more tax on a $2,000 TV compared to 200. So it's you choose how much tax you're going to give the government by what you buy.
Right. And the beauty of it to me is 100% participation.
Yeah.
Anybody that needs shoes for the kids, or they want a party outfit, they're going to pay taxes. The way it is now, there's a large percentage of people that don't pay taxes whatsoever.
Well, there's also a beauty to it because with the fair tax, as originally written by Neil Bortz and I forget the other gentleman's name, as they originally wrote in their book, what happens is the tax is only laid on the final product, the final brand new product. So what happens is that the farmer needs to purchase fuel for their equipment, and there's a tax on that. And then you turn around and you go buy the seeds. They're all along, the IRS is collecting money from what you're doing all along the way. And they have regulations that also tie up the manufacturers and the farmers and the producers, which costs them more money. So all that money will disappear. They no longer will have those expenses. So when the farmer goes out to get the seed, there's no additional government fees and regulations tied in. It lowers the cost. So a loaf of bread that you're paying $5 now may end up being 99 cents. And then the sales tax, if the sales tax is anywhere like 20%, that's still a heck of a lot than what we're paying right now. And then government agencies that you need, such as supplying Medicare and food stamps and whatever else for people on the low income end, that remains. You still have those services, and they're paid for by the fair tax.
Well, if people were able to keep more of their money, they'll spend more of it, most of them. And that means the government will still collect more taxes through the consumption method instead of the income. Most people don't realize how much is being taken out because it's being taken out. They don't see it.
Now, if you're building a new home, you're paying tax on that new home. If you purchase that home from someone else, there's no tax. The tax is then removed because only the final product. So in other words, the lumber and everything else, those costs drop because there's no tax on it, only on the final product. The consumer pays the tax, not the manufacturer producer. They collect the tax on the end of whatever they produce for the consumer. It's simplicity. It is in itself simplicity. And it saves. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. And I'm looking at the time. How much time do we have left? I mean, I'm losing track. Oh my goodness, we only have a few minutes left. It went. And I only got up to number 4 out of 12 in here. And I'm sorry, folks, that we did promise to have Dr. Robert Malone, and we'll have to find out what happened and where he went. He was supposed to be with us last week and had to cancel last minute because he went to D.C. And now, I don't know. So we will find out and see if we can get him back. Next week, oh, Jesus, I'm trying to think of his name. Is it Paul Antononi? He is running for Elise Stefanik's seat in New York. And he's the one that had that huge Trump sign. He's got these label manufacturing that's not only up in New York, but he's got it in a couple other states, mine too. He prints these stickers, and he had a huge Trump sign on his building. And they were trying to force him to remove it. And he sued them, and he got to keep the Trump building on the sign. He's running for Elise Stefanik's seat in New York. He will be our guest, our sole guest, next week. And he's thrilled to come on to the show. So hopefully, maybe 2 weeks or so, we'll get Dr. Maloney back on. But that's all we got, folks. And I'm sorry about missing our guest. But for now, we'll just say good night and God bless.
Be safe out there.
Okay.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. save.